Good evening. It is 6 p.m. I'm calling to order the March 28th Fountain City Council meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence, standing, sitting, whatever, doesn't matter, for the Nashville City and the shooting they had there resulting in the results of 3 children and 3 adults. So please join me in a moment of silence for their family and their community. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Hinton. Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
6 members present, and Councilmember Hinton did notify staff of his absence.
Thank you very much. That takes us on item 4.1, presentation, department update, utilities, Mr. Blankenship.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Dan Blankenship. I'm the Director of Utilities Department, and I am here to give you a update on what we have going on in the department. And I want to start with a little bit of an overview. The key members of my staff include Carl Christian, who's the Deputy Director and also serves as the Electric and Water operations and overseeing that. Taylor Murphy is our Water Resources and Engineering Manager, and Brett Robinson is our Customer Service Manager. The Tech Services Department also reports under me, but they are a separate department. And Lisa Godwin is the Director, and she will be here. She's in Moab right now, but she would have been here tonight, but I told her since last time I was sick, I would take her spot. Next slide, please, Chris. Some of the recent accomplishments, and I'm sure that you're probably aware because some of you were intimately involved in these, was the commissioning of the Agro Water Treatment Facility to treat the PFAS in our groundwater. Last fall, towards the end of the year, after many years, we finally got a water court decree on Fountain Creek water right number 17. To help with our enhance our water rights portfolio. One of the things that you're not aware of that we did as part of our water master plan, we identified the programs that are operation and maintenance programs for our water system. And over the last year, we've actually memorialized those programs. We formally created them, and so it's things like exercising valves and establishing a program to do that so that all valves are exercised on a routine or a set schedule. And then as we find equipment or valves and things like that that don't work, then we put them on a separate plan to go out and repair those. So we've done that with valves, pressure vaults, fire hydrants. We've also have a leak detection program, and then our construction water and backflow programs that are also formalized in this. We also recently obtained a $2.15 million ARPA grant through the county to assist us with our Fountain Reservoir project. Next slide, please, Chris. This is an accomplishment and kind of an announcement too. The reason that it says embargoed up there is that's not my term, that's the American Public Power Association's term. We're not supposed to do any type of official announcement until they actually make this award to us, but the City of Fountain Electric Utility is going to be designated as a reliable public power provider by the American Public Power Association in May. There are little over 2,000. In fact, in last year, I think there was 2,007 municipal electric utilities throughout the nation. As of today, 275 of those have been designated as RP3 utilities. This is basically an operational excellence program that the APPA started. It's based on reliability, safety, workforce development, and system improvement. There are 3 tiers to the program based on the score of the application. And then the evaluation also includes recommendations for improvement from the industry experts who reviewed the application. We will be reviewing those and working on implementing those. The designation is good for 3 years. In 3 years, we plan on reapplying and anticipate making the improvements that are necessary to get us into a little bit higher tier. This is a really excellent recognition from the National Association for Municipal Electric Utilities. And like I say, it's really recognizes about the top 15% of all municipal utilities in the nation. A real feather in all of our caps. Next slide, please, Chris. Our current major initiatives that we have underway right now, we're working on an interconnection with Colorado Springs Utilities at Riverbend. This is up off of 85-87. We did a system analysis of our electric distribution system in 2020. It identified a need to have additional service available in that area. And then there's also new development that has a need for that. And so we're in the process of negotiating an agreement that the developer will pay for part of that interconnection and small substation that is necessary there. We're working on the Fountain Reservoir project. I believe at the last meeting, it was approved to enter into a contract for legal services so we can begin negotiations with public-private partnership on that. We are working on a complete update, review, and revision of our rules and regulations for utilities. That is something that the code empowers the director to do. But my plan is when we get that complete within the next 45 to 60 days, that I will bring that to you and we'll share with you any of the major or notable changes that we have proposed. One of the things that we are doing different this time is in the past it's been 3 separate documents, one for customer service, one for water, and one for electric. It will be a single document this time, so we will be consolidating that. And then we're also working on the 36-inch transmission water line that we anticipate will go to construction in 2023, and that's the transmission water line from our southwest water tower and into across I-25 and the railroad tracks to tie into the existing 36-inch main there. Next slide, please. Just some general information about utilities. Everybody's always, I think, interested about rates. Water, our most recent water rate increase occurred in March of 2020, so it's been about 3 years. There was some talk, I guess, on social media that we had planned, have a 9% increase planned or something like that. There are no plans at this point in time. At some point in the near future, we will have to review those rates, but we continue to work on the other side of the balance sheet in reducing expenditures. On the electric side, the most recent increase was a year ago, and that was the second of 2 4% increases that were approved at the end of 2020. One of the things that we are currently looking at, and we will be proposing some modifications to that with the Fountain Reservoir project, and that is our water connection fees. That's basically a tap fee. And our current tap fees were originally established on January 1st of 2009. So that's 14 years ago And so they are probably well overdue. Another interesting facts about utilities, we've seen a really big uptick in customer-owned generation, basically solar panels that people are putting on their homes. From 2013 to 2020, we had 236. 2021, that jumped to 100. We added 183, and last year to 220, for a total of 639. And then we've added another 25 just at the beginning of this year. As you know, we recently audited our billing practices, and we discovered that we were not billing that per the approved rate structure, but we have corrected that, and that's really important as the number of customer-owned generation systems continue to grow. Next one, please, Chris. The challenges that we are currently facing, number one has not changed, our treated water capacity. We are making progress and moving forward with the Fountain Reservoir project. After we get our legal services to help us to draft a proposed agreement, we're very cautiously optimistic, but the devil's in the details, and so hopefully we'll be able to make it through that phase and get to a signed contract. We continue to work with Colorado Springs Utility for a second interconnection to our distribution system. And then on a daily basis, some of the things that we continue to have challenges with is the finances, our technology, and staffing. As an example, we had 4 out of 5 of our customer service specialists that we replaced in 2022. So we've had some turnover. Some of it has been by individuals choosing to leave, and in other situations it's been a little bit different. But those are really the challenges that we're dealing with at this time, and an overview of what we're doing and who we are. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Todd, did I make it in under 10 minutes?
You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's only 6:12. You're good. Yeah. All right, are there any questions from anybody on council? I don't see any lights lit.
You said second increase on the electric, second increase?
Councilmember Corey.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Second increase? Out of how many? Just 2 or?
In 2020, the end of 2020, the council approved a rate study that included 2 increases. One was effective January 1st of 2021, which was a 4% increase on average. And then the second one was effective January 1st of 2022, and that was also a 4%. The study itself had identified the need to increase rates 4% for a 5-year period. However, that was primarily predicated on the need to build a second interconnection for our distribution system, and we were anticipating that was going to be anywhere between a $20 and a $30 million project. But we did not know exactly how that was going to shake out. We're still working on that with CSU. So what we asked the council to do was just approve the first 2 steps of that raise. And then once we were able to further define the project and the needs, we would come back and reevaluate the need for additional increases.
Thank you.
Well, I guess this is uncongratulations, since you haven't officially got the award yet, so uncongratulations.
Well, we got the
on-
official word. We're just not supposed to tell anybody yet.
The hard work, so
Not
when you actually
officially.
get it, then we'll give
Yeah.
you congratulations. How's that? So that's
Excellent. Thank you.
very good. So, thank you. It's an uncongratulations, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it really is a really great, really great recognition for all of us who are involved, because it's all the way. It's not just the electric department, but it's all of the support staff. It's the city council. It's administration. It takes everything to come together to be able to achieve that level of performance. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. And I do have one question for you. I know we've been seeing the solar garden slowly take shape and beginning to look like it's a real solar garden over off of Duckwood. Thank you.
Yes, Duckwood.
Yeah, Duckwood. And do you have a timeline on when that might potentially?
We are still waiting for a firm delivery date on the transformer. And so they are hoping that it may be here the latter part of this summer, but the transformer companies are making absolutely no promises. But they are trying to get everything completed so that when the transformer comes in, it'll kind of become plug and play.
And that is a really cool project because that's the first time we're ever generating our own power.
That will be yes,
Yeah,
that we
within the
will be a
city.
power generator at that point in time, and it is designed to offset the load or demand of all of the city's facilities and all of our streetlights. And we did, that is partially paid for by a grant from DOLA.
Right. Well, thank you for working hard on that one.
Yep.
All right. Do you have anything, this is kind of catch you off guard, so, in the political world to share with us that's going on in Denver that could potentially have any effects on us down here?
I mean, we're continuing to monitor, any of the legislation that comes down the road, both on the water and the electric side. There's some greenhouse gas legislation that you and I discussed, but we fall under the threshold on that legislation, so it doesn't directly impact us. But there was some legislation that came out, I think, yesterday on growth control. There's a lot of speculation on what that really means, and I think there's some people that are probably reading a lot more into it. And I think it's got a long way to go before, it really materializes. So, but we keep our thumbs on the pulse of everything through our various associations. And then, but there's nothing that I have right now that I have really any concern about.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions from anybody in the audience for utilities? Okay, well, if you have any
There's no
questions
rush
later on.
there's no rush to come ask me questions.
Any questions later on, Mr.
All right.
Blankenship's your man to get hold of. Thank you very much, appreciate that update. Okay, that takes us on to item 4.2, Board, Commission, and Committees. We have no appointments tonight. That takes us on to item 5, City Council Agenda Requests. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future consideration. And I'm going to start to my right tonight with Councilwoman Duncan.
I don't have anything.
Okay, Councilmember Applegate,
I have nothing tonight.
Councilmember Estes,
Nothing this evening.
Councilmember Corey,
Nothing tonight?
Councilmember Rick.
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. That takes us on to item 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Can we check the lights, Miss Sylvia, and make sure they're working tonight before we get started? All right, lights are working tonight. Great, thank you very much. Do we have any cards tonight? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that had any comments for anything not on the agenda? Is there any IT? Is there anyone online?
There's no one online tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no one getting up and moving to the microphone, we'll move on to the item 7, the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately or at the discretion of council. We have items A, B, C, D, and E. What would council like to do with this tonight? Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I move to approve consent agendas A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay, we have a motion. Councilmember Corey.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for the consent agenda, items A through E. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
That takes us on to item 8, old business. Second reading of ordinance 1784, an ordinance approving the Mesa Ridge Overall Development Plan, Amendment Number 5, generally located southeast of the intersection of Mesa Ridge Parkway and Powers Boulevard, and hereinafter more specifically described in Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Christy Martinez with the City of Fountain Planning Department. There was one minor change to the ordinance since first reading. We did, after consulting with the applicant, add a second condition of approval that would stipulate that Link Road shall continue north into the Mesa Ridge development with connections to either Cross Creek Parkway or Mesa Ridge Parkway. The final alignment shall be determined with the development plan for that area in the future. Other than that, there are no other changes to the ordinance.
Would it be possible to pull the map up and show what you're talking about?
Chris, can you pull up my other presentation? Because I have a map on that one. Okay, ignore the whole presentation because I'm going to go through it all here later. There we go. It's like the 4th or 5th slide. The one with the map, basically. Okay, so after a significant amount of the community feedback and feedback from council members, there was some discussion regarding Link Road continuing north into the development. It is showing on the lower southern boundary of the development that it is anticipated to continue north, but the alignment at this time is unknown as the current owners of the Mesa Ridge development do not own this area here. And because Link Road is along a section line without eminent domain, we're not able to continue Link Road north in its current alignment, but that doesn't preclude it for future connectivity should it shift further to the east, or if they acquire the land to the west at some point. But there is the availability for Link to continue north, to connect into Cross Creek Avenue, or to connect further north through another connectivity or an overpass over Powers Boulevard to Mesa Ridge Parkway.
Could you move your cursor a little bit slower?
Which part, the whole thing?
Just kind of where you pointed up to Mesa.
So Link Road is here. It
Okay.
currently comes to a T access at CNS.
Right.
It is proposed to eventually continue north into the development. As the condition is written, it will either connect north into Cross Creek Avenue, which is this east-west roadway here, which currently terminates right about here. Or it may continue north and continue to Mesa Ridge Parkway, which is this east-west road at the northern boundary, which is controlled by El Paso County. If it is to continue north to connect into Mesa Ridge, it would require an overpass or underpass under or over Powers. So we're not sure in terms of which alignment and when that would occur, but we do want to ensure that that future connectivity does occur through the development.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Councilmember Rick.
Yes, thank you. Is there any timing as far as when will the applicant be required to do that extension? Or we're just giving them, sometime in the future before it's finished?
It will be at some time in the future. It's going to depend upon the phasing of the entire 532 acres. You don't want that roadway to continue north without knowing the alignment of the other internal roadway connectivity.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Applegate.
So basically what it would be, there would be a slight jog in the road if they run it close to where it's at, just to stay off that private property?
Correct. It would have to shift to the east without impacting that existing property.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? Oh, Councilmember Corey.
I had a question, and this one might be directed more towards staff, or I don't know, you may have the answer. Cross Creek, I know it was developed, 20 years ago? And I have some concerns from the citizens about the road standards, because as we know, Cross Creek, the development, there's roads I think it's Bandor and Arbor Green. Road conditions are terrible. I mean, it's horrible. It's like somebody ran a monster truck up and down that street right after, before the paving was even dry. Have the standards have changed over the course of the 20 years, correct? Every standards are different now?
They have, yes.
Okay.
And Councilman, those standards, we actually had a discussion with the folks up here yesterday. They were much better at describing what those engineering standards were, but in summary, We followed Colorado Springs standards at the time, which allowed for asphalt, a small 2-inch base underneath, primarily concrete, and then it went directly on the clay. And you see that both in the Cross Creek neighborhoods as well as the Heritage neighborhoods. And that's inherently what's wrong with both of the constructions of those. So both Heritage and Cross Creek are two of the main neighborhoods that are going to be involved with our efforts to join the PPRTA, because we would put those as two of our primary projects to get completed with the capital portion of that. But in general, we've raised our standards. We've also raised our standards in terms of inspections. So we now have 2 individuals that go out when paving is conducted, both our city inspector as well as our roads superintendent. 2 examples I can give you from last season's road paving construction that we did. One was actually in your ward, Southmore. They sent back 6 dump trucks full of asphalt from that road reconstruction on Southmore because they didn't have the appropriate fiber content. Another one that I remember was over here off of Windsor, and they sent back another 3 trucks and stopped the paving on that day because there was a slight drizzle of rain. So the best thing to do is to say we can't go back and fix 20 years ago, but we can do our best not to allow that to happen currently. So that's those are the steps that we put in place all the way from the standards to how we're inspecting the roads.
Perfect. Thank you much. Yeah, we can't have a time machine, but we can keep an eye on one of the work the contractors are doing now. So I think that's what everybody's concerned about. They're just everything moving forward. So
You bet.
thank you.
You bet.
Councilmember Rick, did you have another comment? Is your light still on?
Just a comment.
Okay.
Also, Mr. McDonald, Bob McDonald, caught the contractor not using the fiber filaments in the asphalt on Jimmy Camp Road.
That's correct.
So they are keeping an eye on it.
And Bob, the legend of Bob Groves, he's tough. And he's out there on them, and he does not hesitate to send trucks away and to stop projects. Last week, him and Carl Spangler, with the help of our utilities, we shut down some boring that was going on in the city. 3 times in a week, they shut them down because they were not following either the standards that we've put in place, and once they didn't have the appropriate traffic control plan in place to keep the traffic safe. So they're out there, they're watching, and they're not easy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Any further questions for Ms. Martinez? Okay. Did the applicant want to come up and say anything tonight?
He's okay, thank you. Unless
Okay.
there's specific questions for him. He was not prepared to speak any
I
further.
do kind of have a question. And this, I know this is going to probably get way down in the weeds too much for tonight, but I hope when we get to the point where you're bringing some of the actual development plans back, that we really look at xeriscaping seriously and adopting some standards, from the get-go, and we maybe have some yards and things that people can even from the rest of the city come look at for ideas, because we all know, water is getting very expensive. So that would just be my wish for your development going forward.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and rest of council. Tim Seibert with Norwood Development Group. That's okay. Thank you for that comment. We are actually implementing that in all of our neighborhoods throughout the community to really try to be both in our streetscape elements as well as encouragement on private property as far as the amount of turf. And so we've been working specifically on our projects in Colorado Springs with Colorado Springs Utilities and their demonstration garden that they have up on Mesa Road, and working with our horticulturalists to look at specific soil conditions relative to how to use water-wise landscaping in all of the public spaces, and then encourage that for our residents and the communities as well.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All
Be
right.
happy to answer any of the questions you may have.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Troy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will note the council received an email regarding this topic that I wanted to read into the record, so everyone had a chance to hear it, if you will indulge me as I read it. This email is from a Robert Hagdorn, and he writes, "Dear Fountain City Council members, regarding planned unit development from hearing on March 14th, 2023, I'd like to offer more information on this proposal. What I kept hearing was this is a 10,000-foot look. Number one, everything is great. Number two, no problem with anything. Number three, years before Powers Boulevard will be built. 4, a 40-year time frame. What I currently see at my 5-foot 7-inch look is, number one, traffic congestion already. A, roads are in terrible shape. 2, the 10,000-foot view is not what will actually happen. Number 3, Powers may come sooner than expected. Number 4, Norwood wants to start within 12 to 18 months. He continues, so here are some of my thoughts and concerns with this project. Let's talk roads. We are currently living in one of the first areas, A, on the map, that Norwood Development Group has already developed. We have been here 10 years. We have a neighbor who is a semi-truck driver working hard to provide for his family. He parks his empty truck and trailer by Cross Creek Park. Currently, he receives notices on his trailer that he cannot park here because it is too much weight for the current road and is not allowed to drive or park here, and threats posted on his trailer by Fountain Police to remove the truck and trailer or be fined and towed away. How sad that an empty trailer that is parked is too heavy for the roads, and then we are going to allow tons more traffic to come through in this project, including cement trucks, building supply trucks, maintenance vehicles, and then be stuck with 4,000 more vehicles daily going up and down Cross Creek. Driving from Snuffles Street West to Safeway is like riding a roller coaster. The roads dip and rise and jump and are already breaking up. As you head towards Safeway on Cross Creek from Wythe Street, my question is, when you are making all of Cross Creek a 4-lane road, where are the people that currently park on the side of Cross Creek to get their townhomes and apartments they live in? Where will they park? Also, the road Snuffle Street going up to Mesa Ridge Parkway is in bad shape as well. I want to dodge around the manhole cover that sits way above the pavement in the right lane, but the whole road is rough, as are most all streets in Fountain. And currently, as one tries to wander through the streets from Cross Creek to Parkland Drive and on south to get to CNS Road, one finds nearly a 4-wheel drive road to bounce on going through the neighborhoods. It is terrible. One suggestion to approving this development is that they install all roads and infrastructure in the entire project to meet or exceed federal and state highway standards before any construction of homes begins. Then that would make the 10,000-foot view viable. Another concern from the 5-foot 7-inch current view is that there are no other parks or trails being developed in this plan. It would be nice if I wished to ride my bike to the trails by Fountain Creek that I could have trails from Mark Shuffle Road to those areas. Plus, my understanding is that Cross Creek Park is being considered as a park for the whole development. Currently, my view of the park finds it almost overused already without have another 4,000 to 6,000 people trying to use it. With Norwood Development saying the part left for Powers Boulevard is parks and trails, that will be gone when Powers is built, then what? The Area A that we live in, as their map shows, only has one entry and exit point. When there is another 4,000 cars driving up and down Cross Creek, how will we ever get on the road? And heaven forbid there be an event where this access is blocked and no one can get medical or fire to people that need help in Area A. Then what? In talking to a person with Widefield School District 3, the comment was that the spot on this 10,000-foot view is just that, a view, a spot, and that the district could have options to choose different areas or locations and trade areas of land for other parts of the build-out farther than the part currently shown. So again, 10,000-foot view is just a nothing thing. The 20 acres for commercial is not that much either. The comment at the hearing was that the Safeway area is 20 acres, and look how great that is. Apparently they have a 10,000-foot view of that because when I go there, the roads are terrible, the traffic is terrible, and it is all a mess. I hate trying to go there with all the congestion. So maybe looking forward, remember the 20 acres and the mess at Safeway currently and what that will be like on the 20 acres set aside for commercial on this plan. Maybe they could afford to give the total width for a road going north from CNS Road that would meet at Cross Creek. Just because it is a section line, does it mean that the road has to go down the middle of a section line? Even when I oppose more traffic on Cross Creek. Just a thought. The other property owner does not have to give up anything unless you become the bad guys and use eminent domain to take their land for a road. The Metropolitan District is a joke. Unless one wants a shed or wants to park their RV for a short time, then the district goes into action with a letter telling people those are not allowed. I personally have mowed the weeds from the Wythe Drive to the east end of Cross Creek each year to keep the area looking better. I'm not sure who is supposed to take care of that on the sidewalk north side. And finally, someone did finally show up in late summer of 2022 and start mowing the weeds. So not sure the Metropolitan District will do much for this development other than reap lots of money from the mill levy. My 5'7" conclusion is that in 10 years from now, the 10,000 foot plan will have totally changed and we will still have the terrible roads we currently have. The traffic will be worse, no new parks or playground areas, no new trails to ride bikes or walk on, and the mill levy will have increased for the Metropolitan District, and property taxes will have risen more, and no one will want responsibility for roads or for any of the other issues then. I do thank the council for giving me the opportunity to speak on this issue and take the time to read this, and I especially commend Mr. Gordon Rick for standing up and voting no because of the road issues. Sincerely, Robert Hagedorn, and then he gives his address in Fountain. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, the only comment I'd like to make, Mayor, is one of the things that when we do receive these, and we receive roads, comments, issues, concerns, and I know I'm becoming a broken record, but we do have some efforts involved, PPRTA being the biggest one involved, but we do need in the future to find some type of funding mechanism so that we can improve our transportation system around the city. And I make sure when I talk to every one of our citizens, very honest and very open, until we find that type of a solution, we won't be looking at improvements on our road conditions. Sadly, we've got to find something like that. So I just want to make sure I commented on that.
So is this survey still open for the,
Until tomorrow. Till tomorrow evening.
till tomorrow
Yeah.
evening? So if you haven't taken the survey, either on your text, on your phone, or on the city website, right? Please, please go online and take that. So we're looking for input and information on that as a potential ballot measure or not. It's up to the citizens, right? Okay, all righty. Councilmember Duncan.
In reference to the survey, John, I got a second request to take the survey on yesterday.
When you hit on it, because I tried it out, it just takes you to the monkey survey. You can't take the survey, can't take the text twice.
It allowed me to take the survey.
Oh, it did?
It was on my phone, yeah.
Oh, you lucked out. Mine didn't let me do it, I tried it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask Magellan Strategies about something like that occurred and see what their response is as far as repetitive text going out and the ability to take the survey. But it generally told us that the system doesn't generally allow that, and that the results that they get are statistically valid, and they are able to sort out attempts to take the survey multiple times.
Yeah, I meant to call you, and I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I was curious, I understand there's some build-out in, is it A, Phase A? Is that right?
Correct. The
Okay.
existing residential in Area
And how many
A.
feet of road is already built there that they're complaining about? Is that a lot? Is there a way something could be done, if it is, to improve those roads before we accept responsibility for them? If they're really as bad as what he was reading,
I don't think it's that.
The existing roadways within Area A have already been constructed and accepted by the city, so there aren't any
in the
additional
residential
roadways that would need
neighborhood,
to be accepted. For
Todd,
future
have we inspected
construction,
that as it was built, those roads?
Those were built,
built
what,
in 20 years ago.
20 years ago? Yeah. So I can't tell you what occurred back then. Don't know.
So it's gonna be a disaster, gonna be like firecracker, huh?
It could be, yeah.
Great. There's another $1 million.
Yeah, to rebuild those, absolutely. Yeah,
A mile, $1 million a mile.
yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Councilmember-
I think those should be improved.
Councilmember
They're
Rick?
part of this track.
Yes, Mr. Trilch. I would tell you that my wife gave me feedback. She got the text, she did the whole survey, and when she tried to press complete the survey, it wouldn't take her results. So if you're going to talk to Magellan about the doubles, you may want to talk to them and ask them to look and see how many of those surveys were tried and rejected by the system. Thank you, sir.
I'll ask about that, Councilmember.
Thank you.
Councilmember Applegate, did you have another comment?
No.
Okay. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience on this item on the agenda? Is there anyone online?
No one to speak, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all righty. So what would council like to do with ordinance 1784? Councilmember Rick.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1784 as amended on second reading to the following conditions. The applicant/developer and/or property owner may be required to participate in a fair and equitable manner for future intersection and signal improvements at Mesa Ridge Parkway intersections with Powers Boulevard, Wayfair Drive, Autumn Glen Avenue, Spring Glen Drive, and Mark Shuffle Road. The developer's general design, construction, and/or financial responsibility regarding the final intersection or signal improvements shall be determined with final plat approval and county access permits. Number 2, Link Road shall continue north into the Mesa Ridge development with connections to either Cross Creek Parkway or Mesa Ridge Parkway. Final alignment shall be determined with the development plan for that area.
Councilmember Duncan?
I said.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, including the two conditions that were listed from ordinance 1784. Is there any further discussion from council? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much. That takes us on to item 9, new business. 9A, consideration of items removed from consent agenda. There were none. Item 9B, resolution 23-015, a resolution approving First Amendment to Mesa Ridge Annexation Agreement between the City of Fountain, Colorado and CSI Number 9 LLC, Carolyn S. Jenkins, Chris Mark Chad LLC, and David D. Jenkins, generally located southeast of the intersection of Mesa Ridge Parkway and Powers Boulevard, and hereinafter more specifically described. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. Christy Martinez again with the City of Fountain Planning Department. Thank you. So the item being considered is the First Amendment to the Mesa Ridge Annexation Agreement. It does encompass the same area that we just talked about with the Mesa Ridge Amendment. It is the 532 acres that was previously annexed to the city in 2005. The annexation agreement at that time was a negotiated agreement with the city council sitting at that time with the city in terms of development related to their land use, public facilities, roadways, utilities, parkland, and drainage. At this time, the current owners are seeking a modification to their overall development plan, which is the item that you just approved on the second reading, which was the Mesa Ridge Overall Development Plan Amendment Number 5. But they're also seeking some changes to the previously approved annexation agreement, specifically to the land use, public facilities, and the vesting term. So the first item in terms of the land use is that it would follow the Mesa Ridge Overall Development Plan Amendment Number 5 versus the original annexation, or the original Overall Development Plan that was approved at the time of annexation in 2005. They're also seeking amendments to the public facilities, specifically to the Powers corridor. The 2005 agreement stipulates that they would be reserving the 210 feet of right-of-way for Powers Boulevard. The proposed amendment would reserve 160 feet of right-of-way with 50-foot buffers, 25 feet on each side of the 160, for a total of the 210 feet. The developer would not be required to dedicate or to construct Powers Boulevard. So at that time, CDOT or another entity would need to acquire that land from the developer and then also have funding to construct that roadway versus the developer constructing that. And that in the meantime, to meet city requirements, they can utilize the right-of-way for Powers Boulevard as open space. The original term of the 2005 agreement would expire in August of 2025. The developers are currently seeking an extension of that for an additional 20 years. Should the agreement be approved tonight, it would be until March of 2043. So it would be 20 years from this year. There was also Section 20, which was specified with the commercial, which was deleted in its entirety. In the 2005 agreement, it did specify that the 28 acres, which was located in the southeast corner of the intersection with some steep terrain, had the option to de-annex from the city as it was adjacent to land that was not within the city limits. With the approval of the overall development plan amendment 5, the commercial area was relocated to the southwest intersection of Mesa Ridge Parkway and Mark Shuffle. Therefore, that verbiage in the original agreement is no longer applicable. All other terms and conditions of the 2005 agreement are carried forward, so the amendment is only specific to those items that are addressed. So as I mentioned, the 2005 had the commercial area in this location. There is some concern with the steep terrain, the location of Powers, and then this area north of above that bolded dashed line is what's considered the out parcel, which is not within the city limits. With the overall development plan amendment, they relocated and reduced the size to 20 acres to a more optimal location for traffic flow and development. Should City Council find that the proposed amendments are acceptable, then staff would not oppose a favorable recommendation tonight. I did provide 2 motions. One was to make an approval to approve the modification to the annexation agreement, or should City Council not agree with those new negotiated terms, the second option would be to motion to deny the resolution. Are there questions?
Are there any questions regarding this? Councilmember Rick?
Can you go back 2 slides, Christie, to the, yeah, that one. Okay, it says right-of-way may be used as open space for city purposes only until the roadway is constructed. Who's going to maintain that right-of-way as far as mowing and stuff?
That right-of-way would not be dedicated to the city or any other entity until such time that the Powers corridor would need to be constructed, so it would be retained under the current owners or future owners.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not adding additional mowing responsibility in the summertime. So thank you.
Yeah, I asked that question last week about mowing and mosquito spraying if it needed to be done within that area. So, yeah, thank you for reiterating that. Yeah, it's important. Okay, are there any other questions regarding this? Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? Would the petitioner like to come up and say anything? Okay, all righty. I do have one question, Christy. Sorry about that. I waited. We almost made it. On the term to 2043, that can be renegotiated if whoever isn't ready, if CDOT or whoever purchases it isn't ready for that right away.
The term is only specific to the developer and the city, so that agreement would expire in 2043 regardless of.
But we could come back and renew it if we needed to.
Well, I hope I'm not here in 2043.
I hope I'm not either. I hope I'm
No
not either,
offense,
but it was the conjunct,
Yes, there is an
yes.
option to bring back
Okay.
future amendments.
All right. I don't want CDOT to say we got it on the 2045 plan and they're like, well, this expires in 2043 and, so.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right. That was kind of
And actually, I think it's important to note that reservation and dedication, well, the reservation survives the agreement as well. So that kind of exists in perpetuity too.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, what would council like to do with this item? Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah, I move to approve Resolution 23-015, approving the First Amendment to the Mesa Ridge Annexation Agreement.
Okay, we have a motion, and Councilmember Duncan?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor for Resolution 23-015. Is there any further questions from council or discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
All right, that takes us on to item 9C. Thank you very much. First reading of Ordinance 1785, an ordinance amending Chapter 18.04 Building Code of Title 18 Building Codes of the Fountain Municipal Code as amended pertaining to the adoption of the Pikes Peak Regional Building Code 2023 edition. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, council and mayor. Troy Johnson. You're not gonna hear much from me because the item before you here is a proposal for the Pikes Peak Regional Building new code adoption. And so we've got staff from Pikes Peak Regional Building to present the changes, proposed changes to the code to the council this evening. So as you all know, Pikes Peak Regional Building handles the building inspections for the region, and so they manage that for us through an intergovernmental agreement, and so part of that responsibility is drafting code changes. And if you'll remember, about a year ago, Roger Lovell came with staff to tell us that he was embarking on that mission, and they've spent in the last year engaged in a public process and doing a lot of work to create what's been proposed to the council this evening. And so with that, I'll let them come up, present it to you all, and I'll be here if you have any questions. So, Roger, it's all yours.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Roger Lovell, building official for Pikes Peak Regional Building. We're prepared to answer any questions you have tonight. Before I start, I've got Greg DeGrando. He's our public information officer. He was a big part of the public process of this. Jay Eanhouse, he's our deputy building official for plan review, and John Welton, who's our deputy building official for inspections. So they're the really smart ones when it comes to any technical requirements in the code. With that said, I'll start with just a brief history of the department for those of you who may not be familiar, but the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department was created in 1966 with an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Colorado Springs and El Paso County. It was later on that the remaining 5 jurisdictions, Fountain included in that, joined into the intergovernmental agreement. So it's really kind of it's a unique arrangement, and we are one of only 3 regional building departments in the state of Colorado. And what it does is the codes are adopted because the codes are adopted at a uniform level and a regional level. They are enforced consistently across jurisdictional lines. So the same building code that applies in Fountain applies in the city of Colorado Springs or in El Paso County. And it makes business a lot easier for contractors as well as for homeowners, one central place to get the same information. For smaller jurisdictions, it also affords them a lot of the abilities that we have as a larger building department to assist them on that level. So the current code that we're on is the 2017 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code. We've got that as Colorado Springs. Sorry about that. But that was adopted in late 2017 by the city of Fountain. And we generally do a code change every 6 years. The International Code Council revises and amends their codes every 3 years. It takes us, I'll speak to it later, but it takes quite a bit of time to get through the code change process. This time, we did a full revision. In 2017, we amended the technical aspects of the building code. We didn't include anything to do with the administration or contractor licensing. This time, we've gone through a full scrub of the entire code. Okay, so here we are. The International Code Council updates our codes every 3 years. One of the reasons we do it every 6 years is because of the expense associated with it. It's expensive for our department to buy all the new code books, to go through that entire process. The same holds true for contractors. Buying new code books every 3 years gets very expensive. Additionally, with the process that we have a very robust public outreach process when it comes to adoption of the codes. And if we did it every 3 years, we would be doing it consistently. And if we did that, I would be looking for a new job because it's that much fun. So currently, with the 2017 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code, we adopt the 2015 version of the international codes. The 2023 version that we have here before you today adopts the latest 2021 international codes. Newer codes are sometimes viewed as a problem or a additional regulation, but the newer codes also take advantage of newer construction techniques, newer construction practices, and one of the goals of the building codes is not to disallow any type of material or construction. So that's one of the benefits of the codes. The most significant changes when we start getting into the codes, these are the codes that the 2023 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code adopts. Those being the 2021 International Residential Code. That's the standalone book for all residential construction. The 2021 International Building Code, that's the commercial building code for the building aspects of it. The 2021 International Mechanical Code, the 2021 International Fuel Gas Code, the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code that we'll come back to in a little bit, the 2021 International Existing Building Code, and that's a kind of a unique code, especially in the way that we adopt it. That code applies to existing buildings, and I guess I should say it can be used to apply to existing buildings. If somebody's looking to renovate an existing building, that's one way of going about it. The other way of going about it is to use the International Building Code. So sometimes that code gives them some additional flexibility. And it can be helpful at times. Other times, you're better off using the existing building code. So that's one of the areas that we work with our applicants to make sure that they're using the code that applies best to their particular project. And then for the first time, the 2021 International Pool and Spa Code. For years, we've had a pool and spa code in the Pikes Peak Regional Building Code. But the fact of the matter is the International Code Council knows how to write a code better than we do, and this code provides the user some additional flexibility for pools and spas that we didn't have in our codes. So that'll be a helpful code to have. The Pikes Peak Regional, obviously within building construction, we also have electrical, plumbing, and elevators. As we've talked about before, the electrical, plumbing, and commonly known as conveyance codes are adopted by the state of Colorado. They generally do that every 3 years. As a local jurisdiction or an agent of the state, but per state statute, we have 12 months to adopt and enforce those codes locally. So we always like to wait until the 11th hour, let the jurisdictions to the north of us start on those codes sooner, figure out what some of the problems and shortfalls are with them. The last electrical code specified some electrical gear that you could not buy, but yet it was required to have. Locally, that wasn't as much of a problem for us because we were not yet on that code. So we like some of those things to get worked through the system. Local jurisdictions, when it comes to those 3 state codes, can amend those codes, but only if they make them more restrictive. So we do not choose to make any additional amendments to those codes or make them any more restrictive than they already are. So there's no change in the plumbing, electrical, or conveyance codes with the 2023 Pikes Peak Regional Building Code. So what are the most significant changes to the codes? And the reason that we came and talked to council about a year ago was in particular about the energy code. Mayor Thompson is familiar with this one. A year ago, there was House Bill 22-1362, which was a bill that was ultimately passed. Regional Building did take a very aggressive stance with the bill and testified before the House and the Senate in opposition to the bill. Because what the bill did is require adoption of one of the 3 latest energy conservation codes, those being the 2015, the 2018, or the 2021. And further, it does not allow you to make those codes any less restrictive than the least restrictive code. It's kind of complicated there. Set a deadline of July 1st, 2023 to have those codes in place. So right now, remember, we're on the 2015 International, include the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code, but we have amendments to those codes. So as of July 1st of 2023, we would not be in compliance with state statute. So our goal, and we had already, when this process, this bill ultimately passed, we were already well into the process of reviewing the 2021 codes, and we had to step back and redo everything that we had on the 2021 energy code, and also look at the deadline of June 30th, just prior to July 1st of 2023. So what we've done is we've proposed amendments to the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code that really kind of make a transitional step to the next step that we're going to have that came out of this House bill. That being any time a jurisdiction after July 1st of 2023, anytime they're updating or amending their building codes, then they have to adopt the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code to include the Model Electric and Solar Ready code that the state of Colorado is also writing. And what that code does, I want to be clear, that's not part of what we're looking at tonight, but we will ultimately get. What that code does is it requires in new construction certain provisions for EV charging as well as solar ready requirements. So there are more requirements coming from the state. What we have before you tonight is a soft step to those requirements that we will ultimately get. I'm sure there'll be some questions on that. I'm happy to come back to that. The other area, excuse me, of significant changes is probably the accessibility code. The ANSI standards that are adopted as part of the International Building Code have been modified, and they're modified to be more in line with certain requirements by ADA. So again, that would apply to new construction and not have a significant impact on the city of Fountain. We did have going back to the review process, we started our review process of the codes in January of 2021, and it took us until right about July of 2022 before we had a draft of the codes ready and starting to work on this expedited timeframe. We had a 60-day public comment period, and throughout that public comment period, we received 88 public comments. We held 2 board of review work sessions, and each one of those comments, in addition to additional public comments, were heard at that meeting. We took 30 days, incorporated those comments into the draft of the code, opened up another 30-day public comment period on October 1st, and received an additional 29 public comments. Again, had another another work session with the Board of Review, and ultimately the Board of Review passed the final version of the 2023 code on December 19th of 2022. And that's what started the process of coming before each one of our member jurisdictions to seek approval. Just a little bit of information about all of Greg's hard work. We work closely with the HBA. We work closely with all of the member jurisdictions, to include trade organizations, and really did everything we could do to seek some public outreach. And I think it worked. This was one comment that we received on our Facebook page. This is how America's supposed to work. The Pikes Peak Regional Building Department is a shining example of how government should embrace and invite that people can contribute their voice in their local governance, but this is only half of it. It's not effective unless the people accept the invitation. So we believe that we wanted to do a better job with trying to meet the needs of the public and public comment process, and we believe that we did that. With that, that's pretty much all I have, but I'm sure you have questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the hard work everybody's done on this. And I think that amount of comments is fantastic. That amount of feedback is really good. So, yeah, so that shows you're doing a good thing getting the word out there. So
Thank you. We were happy to see those comments come in.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any questions from anyone in the council? Is there any questions from anybody in the audience? Richard, you worked hard on this, huh? You're on the board. You worked hard on this, huh? Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
Why did you go with the IBC instead of the UBC?
The Roger Level Regional Building. The Uniform Building Code, as it was previously known, was written by the International Conference of Building Officials, ICBO, in late 99 or early 2000. The ICBO was, I believe, purchased by the International Code Council. So the Uniform Building Code became the international codes. So there is no more. The last Uniform Building Code was the 1997 version. 2000 was the first year for international codes, but you really have to be a code geek to know that one.
Right. So all those classes.
I got that one.
So all those classes I took on the UBC in California are,
I took the UBC classes too.
did you?
Yep.
Yeah, well,
It was a
All right.
transition from one code to another code. They changed the names.
probably a
They
lot
got that
didn't
one.
change much, so. All right, thanks.
All right,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
just want to make a quick comment. And this is really just not related specifically to the code, but to PPRBD, just thanking them. They really, and a lot of folks don't know this, but they really are great partners for the city. They help us out anytime we need it. We've had recently, not recently, it's probably been over a year now, but we had some need for them to help us out on something with the building that was being remodeled across the street with some electrical. And they immediately jumped on us to help us out, helped us actually with our contractor as well. And just want to give Roger and his team just a whole bunch of kudos because they just are always great to reach out and help us out.
Thank you, Scott. We do work very hard to make sure that we take care of each one of our member jurisdictions. Obviously, the city of Colorado Springs is our largest member, but that doesn't mean that they receive any preferential treatment. In fact, I always appreciate getting to the small jurisdictions and meeting you guys more than anybody else.
Well, I appreciate how easy your website is to use, and I don't say that. I am like not but I've had cases to go on and make sure contractors had pulled permits. It's easy to check their name. You can check out the contractor before you sign a contract with them to make sure they're in good standing with Regional Building and they don't have any issues going on. Found one that was giving us a quote, had her license revoked like the week before by you guys. So I really appreciate your website being really easy to use like that.
Well,
So
that'll
thank
give
you
me a
very
second
much.
to plug something that Greg's worked hard on. On our website, we now have an educational button. On that educational button, you can go there. It just started, so there's more coming, but we're offering code classes for the public specifically on these codes. There's also a lot of information there on some of what you're talking about, Mayor, the importance of checking a licensed contractor before you sign a contract. There's a great tool on our website. You can search by contractor name, you can search by contractor discipline, and see if that contractor is actively licensed or not. And you can always call us and ask us too.
Yeah, it just makes it really easy to use. And for my IT department to hear me say that, that's something, huh? All right, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah. I move to approve ordinance number 1785 on first reading.
Councilmember Duncan.
I second. I really wanted to ask him a question
Oh, I'm
first,
so sorry.
but we're in
Go
the
ahead and-
motion.
Well, go ahead and second it, and then we can still have,
I
okay.
second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? There you go.
The discussion I have is, I have tried to go online and participate in some of your committee meetings, and, it's, the comment that I have is that it's hard when you don't see a face. You just hear the recording. So I don't know, is it a way that you can be actually pretending to be a part of the meeting?
There's always, okay, so I didn't bring an IT specialist. I brought code specialist. There is a way to monitor the meetings remotely. We use Microsoft Teams. We are trying to look at some ways of advancing that technology a little bit, but it requires a significant investment into our infrastructure that we have right now, which at this time is a little bit difficult for us. We are facing a significant downturn in construction right now, so we're having to watch our budget a little bit closer than normal. But that is one of the goals that we do have, is to make those meetings more publicly accessible rather than just a voice. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, please vote.
Six yes, motion carried.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you very much. You might want to stay around a little bit longer. We might have something of interest for you in a minute here. Okay. Resolution, item 9D, Resolution 23-016, the resolution amending the appropriation of fiscal year FY 2023 budgeted funds. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. John Lewis, Finance Director for the City of Fountain. As you are aware, you adopted a budget for this year, 2023, on November 15th, 2022. And of course, by that time, final numbers were not available for some of the capital projects because invoices were still coming through in January and February of 2023. So we have now come to a point where we know what numbers in the capital projects need to be carried forward because those projects were not completed. So we're therefore recommending formal approval to amend the 2023 General, Water, Electric, Conservation Trust, Street Capital Improvements, and Public Transportation Funds for those 2022 budgeted items that were not spent and not completed and are now anticipated to be spent in 2023. This carryover budget amendment process is a standard process and a best practice for ensuring that capital projects spanning more than one budgetary period are continued and efficiently completed. In addition, staff is now aware of certain required 2023 expenditures that were not included in the 2023 adopted budget for a variety of reasons. These include, but are not limited to, non-capital items that were previously appropriated by you and budgeted but not spent, specific expenditures for which we have now received grants and are restricted to be spent in certain ways, expenditures of restricted ARPA grant funds, and additional amounts required for computer upgrades that we need for cybersecurity. Staff is therefore recommending that the budgets of the general, water, and electric funds be amended for those items listed in the attached item summary in Exhibit A. So Chris, if you would go to Exhibit A on the slides, and I'll walk through the expenditures. Now, this first section are the carryover requests, the carryover capital requests. We have improvements that are coming out of the ARPA funds for the AV audiovisual projects for Conference Room 1 and in preparation of any future pandemics. The next three items are tech services upgrades that were not completed, computer equipment and software, et cetera, that again were not capital projects, but they were operational projects that we were not able to complete in 2022 and would like to now complete them in 2023. We then have $817,774 of various CDOT, public works improvements that are also partially paid for by CDOT and PPACG grant matches or grants, and this is the match amount, the $817,774. As you are aware, we ordered a fire truck in 2020, and we made a partial payment on that. It is now going to be delivered this year, we think. Since another truck has been purchased, this truck will be sold to help offset the purchase of the Pierce ladder truck, but the remaining balance that was budgeted on this fire ladder truck that we will sell is $353,392. We then have building improvements of $86,029 for energy-saving works that's done on the buildings, and it's not part of the solar array. The Aga Park restroom and concession buildings and Parks Warehouse building construction, that design started in 2020, construction began in 2022, but now we're moving it over to 2023. That is coming out of the Parks Reserve. That's how it was initially budgeted. Last but not least, we have, for the general fund, we have $105,711 for the Front Range Trail project, and these are really the matching funds to go along with the grants that we're receiving for this Front Rail project. So the total in the general fund carryovers is $2,062,307. For the water fund, we have various improvements, and we also have another $30,000 that has to be spent on the PFC superstructure. That's the remaining amount that needs to be spent. The improvements there for Dr. Rogers Ditch, ongoing project for SCADA that wasn't completed in 2022, the ongoing project for Fountain Reservoir, easement for raw water, and the 36-inch water transmission main and other ARPA projects that had been budgeted last year and will be continued into 2023.
Mr., I'm sorry to interrupt. I think
Yes.
we need to go to the next slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, the next slide. So those items I just mentioned are the top parts there for the water fund, and they total $295,522. We then have one item in the electric department, and that's the green initiative, the solar array, and that project is continuing into 2023. And we discussed that a little bit earlier when you had asked about what you had seen, that it was still ongoing, but we're waiting for some more pieces of equipment. If we could go to, oh, there you've got it. You were ahead of me, Chris. Okay. Conservation Trust Fund. We were unable to procure a contractor for the ADA parking lot expansion at Metcalf and the Ventana open space completion. So now those are being moved over to 2023. The total amount, $145,394. For the Streets Capital Improvement Fund, the dollars left over from the Moving Fountain Forward Fund is $884,521, and that will be spent on the Indiana Avenue project. We're still waiting on the railroad approval. But I guess it's close, getting close. The last item for the carryovers is in the Public Transportation Fund. That's $164,525. The remaining balance to be spent on the additional bus shelters that were previously budgeted. So before I go on to the supplemental requests, are there any questions on the carryovers from 2022?
Mr. Rick?
John, you may not know this. Hopefully one of the staff does. Refresh my memory. Where is the Front Range Trail project? Where exactly is that at?
Ooh, think of directly west of us right now, coming off the trail onto Missouri. So is Missouri on the other side of 85, 87? Then it will come down, go down 85, 87, Jim, to Indiana, then come across to the open space.
And then it crosses into Advil.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions?
No, please continue.
Okay, Chris, if we could go to the next slide. And this begins the supplemental items that were not capital carry forwards. We are showing ARPA revenue because all of those funds are in unearned revenue until they are budgeted and spent. So the revenue will be moved over from unearned to actual revenue, and the $54,000 is going to be spent on the previously suggested lighten the load donations. And that was due to the regulation during COVID against charging late fees. And that's a certain percentage of those late fees goes into the lighten the load to help those individuals that are having difficulty paying their energy bills. So we're now going to budget that for 2023 and move that money over to earned revenue from the ARPA balance. We have $21,000 in maintenance service contracts for this multi-factor authentication that we're using on our computers and phones for that will help with cybersecurity. A $4,000 miscellaneous expense to honor Julian Becerra. A $25,000 for fire emergency equipment. And these are repairs and upgrade to the truck exhaust system in Fire Department number 2. And Parks Capital of $31,100. These are improvements to Cheyenne Ridge Park as agreed on by the residents of that community from money that we had previously received on their behalf. So the total expenditures is $135,100. The change in the unrestricted unassigned reserves is $81,100. If you could go to the next slide, the last slide, great. Thank you, Chris. We have money in the water fund that we would like to be spent on computer equipment software. These are tech services upgrades and cybersecurity. And in the electric fund, $129,560 for the same thing, computer equipment software and their tech services upgrades and cybersecurity. So with that, I'll ask if there are any questions on any of the supplemental requests.
Are there any questions from council members? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, seeing none, what would
Okay, with that, I would, staff recommends that City Council approve Resolution number 23-016.
Thank you. What would council like to do? Councilmember Estes.
I move to approve resolution number 23-016.
I'm not sure who was next. Councilmember Corey.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? Seeing none, please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us on to item 10, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
Oh, okay.
Nothing, Mayor?
Mr. Trainer. Mr. Johnson.
The only thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned it a couple times to the council, but it's official that there has been new opioid settlements nationwide, and so just informing the council, I plan to opt into those additional ones as we did with the other ones, and that'll go through the regular opioid council approved process that the council approved months ago. But that's just so. That's official, and I'll be opting into those for the city of Fountain and the region. So just wanted to let you all know that officially. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chief Graham.
No, ma'am, nothing tonight.
Mr. Cristiani.
No, Madam Mayor, nothing tonight from police.
Mr. Trilch.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council and public. I wanted to comment a little bit more on the survey. I was planning to give a kind of report on how the survey is doing, and actually was corresponding with Magellan Strategies while the meeting was going on, and I have some answers to your questions, so I'll provide that as well. So the survey does close tomorrow evening, and so far we've completed 709 surveys. That includes 50 phone interviews, which are really important because it helps validate the tech survey data, so it's really good results. Magellan Strategies had told us that 300 responses is what we needed to have a statistically valid survey. So 709, excuse me, is very good, and it helps decrease the margin of error. So it gives us more accurate results. So relative to your questions, Councilmember Duncan and Councilmember Rick, we just wanted to exchange several texts. So I'm going to kind of move around here because I want to be sure I get the answers right from Magellan. Regarding receiving multiple text messages, they said that it is possible to receive the text again. It's difficult for them to determine exactly who's completed the survey and when exactly they did it, so when the text can go back out. However, it is possible that they could receive multiple texts. However, it would be on the same phone, and so if they click the link from that text, the phone, whatever they're working, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, it will go to its default web browser, and it's through the web browser and the IP address that they actually track the survey. So, it is, somebody could take that link and open up a different browser and take it again, but they conveyed that that's unlikely that, you know, folks do that. It is possible, and they really have never seen that that's been a problem. They additionally noted that, just scroll here. They do have a way of kind of filtering out the results. So they do some verification to see whether or not people are taking it multiple times. So I asked them, you know, well, how many, considering we have over 700 completed surveys, I mean, how many times would someone have to take it to really skew the results anyways if someone was really out there trying to do that? And they said, well, for one, they would definitely catch that if someone was taking it a lot through the methods they use to screen the surveys. And they would have to take that survey more than 100 times for it to really skew the results. Councilmember Rick, regarding your question about the survey not then uploading once it was submitted. So they said once a respondent completes the survey, there's not a specific confirmation that they would receive back. Again, it goes to that web link. So once they click done on the survey, they should get just a message that say the City of Fountain thanks you for your time and opinion. And that's the end. So there's no other text confirmation or anything that comes back. If they didn't receive that message, there must have been some type of error in the device or the link or something like that. So it's just a technology glitch that they wouldn't be able to answer for. So hopefully that answers your questions. And Magellan Strategies will be here on April 11th, the next council meeting, to provide the results of the survey. Pending your questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, anything further?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blankenship? None tonight. Ms. Martinez? None tonight, thank you. IT?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Ms. Huffman?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. All righty. So I'd like to kind of go first tonight. I haven't done that. And so I'd like to talk about a letter that was on your desk tonight when you came in. It's a letter, there has been a Senate Bill 23-213 introduced, and it's regarding affordable housing. And I have a letter that I asked Scott to put together after some conversations that we've had. And hopefully, I have a copy here. Everyone could hopefully sign the corrected copy tonight that Councilmember Hinton's name is not on the letter. Only, not that we don't want him to sign the letter, but this is very time sensitive, since this is going to be heard very quickly. So I'd like to read this into the record, and then if there's any discussion, and then hopefully we can sign it tonight. It says, opposition to SB 23-213 regarding affordable housing. To whom it may concern, as duly elected representatives of the citizens of the City of Fountain, Colorado, we want to fervently declare our opposition to Senate Bill 23-213 regarding land use authority. Senate Bill 23-213 has been characterized as an attempt to provide affordable housing, while in fact it is a sweeping attack on local decision-making authority when it comes to matters that should be of local concern, specifically related to land use authority. This is both an attack on home rule authority and an unfunded mandate, as it requires the city to expend what we believe would be an inordinate amount of funds for studies that will not actually solve the problem that the bill purports to address. Our community will be directly impacted by the components of this staggering legislation by eliminating our ability to zone multifamily housing to locations where the infrastructure is in place to provide the necessary services, removing our discretion to place certain criteria on multifamily housing, such as parking requirements, along with other infrastructure improvements necessary for the high-density development envisioned in the bill. Allowing the character of neighborhoods to be destroyed by forcing incompatible land uses directly adjacent to single-family homes. Mandating expensive studies relative to housing and water resources, much of which is already duplicated in existing local planning documents. Shifting the burden and responsibility of what have traditionally been local decisions up to a state agency, thus removing local accountability to voters. The entire bill reflects the state's belief that it knows far more about what's best for the quality of life in our communities than our own citizens do. It removes decision-making from the people who are actually impacted by those decisions and shifts it to a bureaucratic entity that has no vested interest in the city of Fountain, our families, or our character. For those reasons, we strongly ask our legislators to reject this state government power grab. And so I have a copy of the letter here, and so if each person would like to sign it tonight, I'm going to put the signature on it and pass it. We'll start down with Councilmember Rick, if you'd like to sign it. Is there any discussion of the letter while we're passing it around? Is there any questions from anybody in the audience? This is just a huge overreach from the state, basically telling us how they think our community should look. And I'm hoping other mayors and other towns will take this as a template and be willing to have some pushback. Mr. Lovell, come on down. Sounds like Price is Right. Come on down.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I hadn't planned to speak on this, but I think that this bill, while it doesn't have a significant impact on the building department, it does have a very significant impact on each one of our jurisdictions. With that said, it was a year ago that we faced the Energy Code bill, and we fought as hard as we could with that bill. And I'm very pleased to see the City of Fountain taking action on something like this, because loss of local control is exactly how we end up with these requirements that come down from the state that are unfunded, and we don't have a choice. So I think it's a fantastic thing that you're taking this stance, and we need to maintain as much local control as possible.
Thank you very much. So we do have a signed copy here, Scott, for you to send off to everybody for tomorrow. And thank you, every council member who signed that. I appreciate it. There's a lot going on up there. There's more bills coming down. There are going to be over 600 bills, so this is not over until May 8th. And the reason I can remember that's my brother's birthday. So, think we need to start standing up, and we need to say, you know, these things cannot keep happening. These unfunded mandates. You know, there are some good things coming down, right? But a lot of stuff going on. So. Thank you very much for allowing me to take my time first, and I will start to the left with Councilmember Rick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two requests from Mr. John Chamberlain, a resident of Fountain, for the city manager. With the Fountain Recycling Center closing, he was wondering if we could enter into some partnership or intergovernmental agreement with Fort Carson to have them position dumpsters in Fountain that could collect recycle, and they could come down and get the stuff. People could just drop it in a dumpster. Fort Carson could come down and get it and take it away and recycle it. He just asked if we could look into that. The second request from him is if we could put the dumpsters a little bit more easily accessible point, getting to it where it's currently at. It's not Ohio, but I can't remember the next street over where it's at, where we currently have, Iowa, where we currently have it at. He says it's very difficult to get at. So if we could find a little bit more public place, if we can get Fort Carson to agree with it. If you could just follow up with that. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Just one thing on that, Mayor, just let everybody know, part of my job is to keep things realistic. And when we have had open dumpsters in the city in the past, it's turned into a free-for-all. And so I'll have those discussions with Fort Carson when we talk about it, but it's tough to have dumpsters out there.
Thank you. Councilmember Corey?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes?
I just have one thing. The El Paso County is hosting a fair housing event. It will be Friday, February 14th, between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m., and it will be at the Fountain Valley Senior Center. It is free to the public, and refreshments will be served. The featured speakers and topics are community aging in place, capable homeowner rehabilitation, CDBG housing goals, and fair housing. And this is put on from El Paso County Department of Economic Development and Brothers Redevelopment Incorporated. Again, that will be Friday, April 14th, from 1 to 2:30 at the Fountain Valley Senior Center.
Okay, April 14th. Great, thank you. All right, Councilmember Applegate?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Duncan?
I was looking at the county commissioners, and Jim Reed retired. And so I would just like to give a shout out to him. He's a wonderful guy and a lot of hard work that he's done here in Fountain. So just wanted to let him know that we appreciate him. And I don't know if we could send him a card or something on his retirement. Or...
He actually didn't want any specific recognition. So we took him out to lunch and thanked him on behalf of the city because he's just done so much for us.
Right, that's
But
wonderful.
he wanted to keep it really low key and sort of sneak out the back door, I think.
Okay, so I know we have a support on HB 231090, and that came up to read at 2 o'clock today. So I was just trying to get our direction. I wrote down director of the district buys the bonds. They will have to disclose the amounts. Do you understand? Do you remember what we were talking about on that one? Because this has to do with limiting metropolitan districts. On monitor, not support? Okay. So it was read today. Do they have an update on that one? Because there was a letter. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to see, okay, if we can get an update on that one, because there was a letter that was sent to me to sign about this bill. So I just wanted to know what happened with that one.
All right, thank you very much. Item 11, announcement of an executive session. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. I'd like to request an executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-424 for the purpose of review, approval, and amendment of executive session minutes, and pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-424A to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real, personal, or other property interest, and pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-424B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions.
Okay, we have a motion for a request from the city clerk to go into executive session. What would council like to do? Councilmember Duncan?
I make a motion that we go into executive session.
Okay.
I move.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Rick?
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
All right, I am going to adjourn the council meeting for tonight, and thank you everyone who came. And we will take a break at 7:38. We will reconvene at 7:00.